What is my purpose? Am I just meant to do one thing for the rest of my life? Like, is this it? Like, is it the Female Entrepreneur Association for the rest of my life? The idea of just doing one thing forever freaks me out. I'm here. I don't want it to just be one thing. Oh, hello. So I want to chat with you about something that I've been really thinking on for the past few years. And I really think this is such an important conversation to have. And I wonder how many other people have been struggling with the same kind of thoughts that I've been struggling with. To start off, last night I went to see An Evening with Elizabeth Gilbert, and she talked on stage for an hour and a half, and it was so amazing. It was funny, actually. When I got home, I got into bed and I checked my Aura Ring data for the day, and then it was like, nap, 7:38 or something. And I was like, that's literally when she started speaking. And I was like, I must have just relaxed so much when she started speaking that my Aura Ring thought I was having a nap. I was not having a nap, but it was really interesting. So she stood on stage, and what she talked about was something she called purpose anxiety. And she talked about how we kind of live in this time where we feel so much pressure to figure out what our purpose in life is. We feel like we're supposed to have it figured out. We're supposed to know what our unique gifts are to bring to this world. She said there's so much pressure on all of us to feel like we're supposed to leave our mark on the world, to leave a legacy, to be living big and achieving amazing things. And if we're not, we just feel like we're completely failing. And if we don't know what our purpose is, then the idea of not having a purpose again makes you feel like you're failing. And we're all trying to figure it out and get to this place where we know why we're here, what our purpose is. And she says the amount of pressure that we put on ourselves causes so much anxiety, and it creates so much misery and unhappiness. And so many people struggle with this. And I was like, oh my gosh, they do indeed. It was fascinating listening to her, because how many times have you felt lost in life? And when you feel lost, you feel like you're not supposed to feel lost. You feel like you shouldn't be feeling lost. You shouldn't be feeling that way. You should know what you're meant to be doing. You should have it all figured out. And I think so many of us get to that place where we get in a real spiral when it comes to knowing what we're meant to be doing. I remember in my early 20s feeling like I was having a quarter life crisis, and I'm sure many of us felt like we had quarter life crises. For me, it was because I was trying to figure out, what am I meant to be doing? What is my purpose? What is the thing that I'm meant to do? And I remember one time going to the ballet or something, and I saw the people dancing, and I was like, oh, but they're amazing. They know what their purpose is in life. That person's a dancer. Why can't I be good at something like that? So I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And I kind of got all caught up in thinking that I was meant to have it all figured out. And for a really long time, it drove me crazy. It drove me insane. And then I went on this massive personal development journey and ended up obviously starting the Female Entrepreneur Association, and just kind of allowing myself to kind of show up for what felt like was flowing through me, and stop forcing everything, stop pushing with everything, and just kind of go with the flow. And that kind of got me to a place where I did feel really fulfilled and content and happy. But over the years, the questions have popped back up around what is my purpose? Am I just meant to do one thing for the rest of my life? Is this it? Is it the Female Entrepreneur Association for the rest of my life? And I'm not going to lie, I have struggled with that idea. The idea of just doing one thing forever freaks me out. I'm here. I don't want it to just be one thing. I know for myself, I have had so much anxiety I've battled with around these questions and these thoughts. And a couple of years ago, I started to really struggle with it all. And I struggled because of this. And it'd be interesting to know if you've experienced these thoughts and these feelings. When you've achieved a goal that you've set yourself, and then you kind of feel like, oh, what now? Instead of feeling euphoric, you feel lost. And I had set some really big goals for myself. I wanted to build a really successful business. I wanted to write a best-selling book and get it published. I wanted to be able to buy a house and be able to build my own home. And I wanted all these things. I wanted to get married, have kids, blah, 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 blah. And then I realized oh my gosh, I've achieved all these goals. And instead of feeling oh, that's amazing, I kind of went into a bit of despair. And I started to think, well, I think one, the fear of can I keep all this stuff? Kind of kicked in. Like, what if I can't sustain this? Blah, blah, blah. Like, what if I lose it all? All those kinds of like worries kind of crept up. But I also just had this really unsettling feeling of like, well, what's next? What am I meant to do moving forward? Like, I've reached all these goals. And so I would have conversations with people and they were like, well, what do you want? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, and they were like, thinking of like big goals, but I'm like, and I kept thinking, but do I really want that? So for example, in business, it might be like, well, you got to 7 figures now, why don't you get to 8 figures? And I'm like, okay. But then when you feel it's like a hollow goal, it's empty, you don't really feel fully connected to it. You're just doing it because you feel like you're supposed to go bigger. You're supposed to do all that. But then you're like, but am I really? Like, is that really what I'm supposed to be doing? I kind of got into this point where I was just actually feeling pretty miserable. I was feeling really lost. I was feeling really confused. I felt confused about like what I was meant to be doing. And around that time, it's like, well, I've been doing this business now for like 10 years. Like I started FEA in 2011. So in like 2021, around that time, like I was like, it's 10 years. Like it's a long time to be doing one thing. Do I want to keep going with the same messaging? Is this what I'm just going to keep doing forever? And I started to feel really lost and confused about everything. And I remember one time speaking to somebody that I was in a mastermind with, and he said to me, Carrie, why don't you just live the dream? And I thought, why don't I just live the dream? And then I thought, what does living the dream even mean? And like, what does it look like? And so then I kind of had all these confusing ideas around what living the dream looked like. Because I think so much for me had been like, well, you work really hard so that you don't have to work. But then I was like, but what's that about? Because when I'm not working and I'm not focusing on something, I'm not being creative, I kind of just feel lost because I'm like, what am I doing? I'm just drifting. And so it's like, you don't just want to feel like you're on like an endless holiday where you're not really doing anything, you're not being productive, because that doesn't feel good either. I felt really confused around like, what does it mean? And so for the past like few years, this question that I kept asking myself is like, what is living the dream? What is that? What does it look like? And when is it that like, what's enough? When is it enough? You've got enough. And when is it like, no, that's a limiting belief and you can have more? And I got really into thinking about this because you've got people that are like, you are here to experience more, to have more, to be more. Like, open yourself up, go for it. You live one life. I fully, completely agree with that. But then on the other hand, you're like, when is it enough? When is it that we're going for more? And we're kind of pushing and we end up getting into that place where we're pushing for it. We're pushing for more. And it doesn't feel good. And then we burn out. And then we feel empty on the inside because it's always, we're trying to get to that place of more. But when we get there and then it feels empty, and then we like, well, what's next? And then we push for that next thing. And then we get there and it feels empty. And we just kind of end up feeling a little bit sad about everything. And I was like, so what is it? Like, what is this balance? And I think when Elizabeth Gilbert was speaking last night, I was thinking about what she was saying about purpose-based anxiety and this feeling and this pressure we put on ourselves to have it figured out. And she said, like, we feel like we're supposed to leave our mark. We're supposed to be doing something amazing with our lives. We're supposed to be doing something that we love. We're supposed to be making money doing something we love. And like the pressure that comes with it, it's like, if you've got a normal job, like, who are you? Like, you're failing in life. And if you're not thinking about your legacy, you're failing in life. And if you're not doing something extraordinary to change the world, you're failing in life. And it's like, I totally get that. And I do feel like we do have this pressure now that we're not supposed to just be like living ordinary lives. One of the things she was saying is like, we need to live in the presence. Like, we need to be present for our lives. And it's like, so many of us are living either in the future, feeling anxious about the future, or stressing about the future, or hung up in the past. But she's like, we're not living in the present and we're missing everything because we're not living it. We're not here for it. We're just we're not just thinking about other stuff and like worrying about it mostly. And I was like, that is so true. And I've experienced it over and over again. But then what's the balance between living in the present and being fully aware, like, and connected to the present moment, but then also having dreams and allowing ourselves to dream big and going for it? Like, what is the balance between that? Because I'm like, if you don't have any dreams and you don't have any plans for the future, that's kind of what makes you feel a bit lost. Like, you're just drifting and you're just not really going anywhere with any intention. And it's just all those feelings start to bubble up. And it makes me think, well, is that society? Does society say that we should have it all figured out and we should know what we want and whatever? And we just feel like if we don't know that we're drifting, and we have anxiety associated with just this feeling of drifting. I don't know. Like, I don't know what the answers are. I feel like I'm still really on this journey of trying to figure out like, what is it? But I just think this is like such an interesting conversation, because I think at the end of the day, I want to live my best life. You want to live your best life. That's what we want. So it's like, how can we do that in a way where it's not like pushing and pushing? How can we show up and kind of let ourselves be pulled into being creative in different ways? Like, how can we just allow ourselves to kind of go with the flow of life? How can we be present, but also expand our minds to the possibilities and the opportunities and allow ourselves to dream, but not get so hooked on the dream that we sacrifice everything for that dream and then we feel crap and then we burn out and we get exhausted and we're drained? Like, what is the balance? And I don't think it's about going and striving for perfection at all. I don't think that exists, but I just think there has to be something. I don't know, this kind of dance between it all. One of the things that I was thinking of that I wanted to share in this episode is, you probably heard this before, but I think this is a really powerful thing. Basically, the Dalai Lama was asked about what most surprised him most about humanity. And he said this: man, because he sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present or the future. He lives as if he is never going to die, and then he dies having never really lived. How true is that? And it kind of makes me feel like we have to find a way to be present and to open our eyes to the amazing things that are happening every single day. Even the gift of being able to see, and all the things we can see, the smile on our loved ones' faces, the smile of being able to see our own faces, being able to get dressed and look in the mirror and see ourselves getting dressed, being able to walk down the street and see strangers and look into their eyes and smile at them, being able to pick up a book and read it. I mean, not everyone has that privilege of that. Not everyone has the privilege of sight. But like most of us do. And like, how many of us are taking that for granted? And so in my little journey of exploring these thoughts, I realized that gratitude is like a huge piece of this jigsaw puzzle. And being grateful for what we all get to experience, being grateful for the tiny little things that are happening every day that we constantly overlook, the simple joys in life, drinking your favorite drink, sitting in your favorite chair, lying in your comfy bed, eating your favorite foods, smelling your favorite smells, giving somebody you love a hug and the feeling of that hug. Like, so often we are just not paying attention to any of it. And I think that's what Elizabeth is saying. It's like, why don't we live in this state where we are more tuned in with the present moment and the amazing, incredible things we can experience in the present moment? So for me, I felt like I've really started to tune in a lot more with that, with gratitude, with being more present in my life. Like, one thing that I've been doing with the kids as well is getting out and going for walks and saying, stop, what can you hear? And like listening to the birds sing. And then we listen to the birds singing and we listen to the sounds and we take it all in. And it's such a nice thing to do because it just brings you into the moment and you can connect in the moment, and it's so powerful. And I think one of the other things that I've come to realize, or the conclusion I've drawn after thinking about all this stuff for the past few years, is the fact that, like, in fact, I think this is a thought that I had like many years ago, which helped me enormously, is that I think our purpose in life is to just experience life. I think it's to experience the joys and every experience of life, and to really be kind of present for those experiences. And yes, to try and make it like an amazing life, a fulfilled life, a happy life, a joyful life, a loved life. Like, I think that's our purpose. I don't think our purpose is, for example, to become amazing at something. Like, I don't think our purpose in life, for example, is for somebody to become a dancer. Like, that's not a purpose in life. That's something you do in life. I don't think a purpose in life, for example, I don't think my purpose in life is to teach people how to build successful businesses. I just think that's what I do as part of my life. I like helping people. I like teaching people what I have learned. Like, I like that, but it's not all of me. It's not my identity. Like, there's loads of other things I love doing too. And once I realized that and took that pressure off myself, and I saw life as a way of experiencing life and expanding myself in life, like, I felt like it was really freeing. Though then again, there's this balance of, like, for me, I think it's about expansion, but then it's like, well, Is that right? Is that okay? Like, does that again put pressure on me to constantly be expanding and growing and evolving and developing? And like, I don't know. But yeah, but I definitely feel like this journey that I have been on, I think for me, it still very much is being intentional. I definitely feel like with some of the things Elizabeth was saying, I totally hear what she's saying about living in the present. But like, I do also feel like for me, planning into the future and like getting intentional about what I want my future to be, I find a lot of peace and comfort in that. It's like takes a lot of stress off, rightly or wrongly. Like for me, it does. Yeah, really tuning in and being mindful and thoughtful around like, what do I want? But then alongside that, being really grateful for what I do have. And the experiences I'm experiencing every day have really helped me too. So I haven't really cracked it all yet and figured out what the heck does living the dream even mean. Though I'm on this quest, like I really want to write a book about this exploration and like, yeah, talk about it. And I have got a lot more to learn. I have got a lot more digging to do and a lot more figuring out to do, but I feel like I'm on this journey and it's been really fun to like explore those questions. And I know it's questions I think we're all exploring, aren't we? So yeah, so I really wanted to talk about it because I just think, I don't know, there are those, those things that bubble up. I think sometimes we can feel like crap because we haven't got it all figured out and we don't know what our purpose is and we don't know what we're meant to be doing and blah, 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 blah. And we feel rubbish. But actually, what if we're exactly where we're meant to be and we're actually meant to look at everything and be like, just kind of be at peace with it. And yeah, Elizabeth was telling the story yesterday about a book she was meant to be publishing earlier on in the year. And as the promo started, the pre-launch started, the Ukraine were up in arms because it was a book based in Russia. And so there was a lot of controversy that came up online. And she said at first she felt like she was being attacked. And then she went back to her hotel room. And I think like the next morning she was sat there and she had her breakfast there on a tray and she was in an amazing hotel room. She started laughing and she realized like, this is not what being attacked looks like. This is like a really privileged situation that I'm in. And this is amazing. And then she started to look at the comments that people were leaving on Twitter and reading what they were saying. And then she realized those were the real people being attacked, people living in the Ukraine. Their families were being killed. They were fleeing their homes. Like she's like, those people are being attacked. And I think like it's just looking at all the things that are happening in our lives and the things we're experiencing and choosing a good lens through which to view things that are happening. And I think, again, like this is where you're coming back, like I try and come back to gratitude and being grateful for the experiences and the moments. And it's just such a powerful emotion to really lean into. So anyway, this is the end of, I think, my ramblings. I think I've said everything that I wanted to say, but I just think this is a really interesting conversation and would be really curious to hear your thoughts on this topic. So send me a message at I am Carrie Green, DM me on Instagram. I would love to hear what you have to say and to chat about this or tag me on something on stories so I can reshare it and reshare your thoughts on this, because I think it would be so nice for us to kind of do that and have this kind of conversation around this topic of purpose anxiety and anxiety around like living the dream kind of thing. And what does that even mean? What does that mean for you? Are you really into kind of like purposeful living? And does that mean a lot to you? And why? Like, I don't know that there's a right or a wrong. I just think it's a really interesting conversation. And I think one for us all to kind of lean into and explore so that we can live happy, peaceful, joyful, content, fulfilled lives. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. I'd be really interested to hear. Message me or tag me in a story on Instagram at I am Carrie Green. And I will see you next time for another episode of the She Means Business Show. Bye.